Welcome to Triple M NRL Daily for your Monday, and we've got a massive edition. So many games to recap. 2 coaches already under the microscope, and it's Charlie White here, and I'm joined by 2 of the greatest footy players to ever play the game, Wade Graham and Jimmy Graham. How are you, my friends?
That's a big intro. I think he's overestimating our abilities.
That's not true. You play for your country, play at Origin. You play for your country.
Yeah, you know what it says to me? Charlie's making a statement. He's making a statement on Sunrise, and he's making a statement here.
Yeah, big calls, big opinions, ready to rip in. Yeah, but no, there's a lot for us to get to today, boys. First of all, I will say, if you want to watch this show, you can go to YouTube. Just search Triple M NRL, and every episode in full gets posted on YouTube, which is fantastic. But I want to start with Bronson Xerri before we rip into the games, Jimmy. Your man, Bronson Xerri, your team, the Dogs. Now, Bronson Xerri, does he want out? Does he not want out? It's come out that he hasn't asked for a release, but he is disgruntled, having been told he will not play in first grade this week.
Good.
And?
Well, I want my players to be pissed off they're not playing. Nobody knows what it's like to spend time on the sideline and how ration your time is more than Bronson Xerri. He spent 4 years out of the game. I want him to care about not being in the team. You know, maybe it could be deemed as being an overreaction, but he's not actually asked for a release. So, look, this is a non-story. It's maybe he's not playing first grade, but it has been blown out of proportion. But that is the territory that we're in with the Bulldogs. Also, the talk of he's not going to be offered a deal in after 2027. Well, guess what? That conversation doesn't happen. It's made up. It is completely made up. Because respect to Bronson Xerri, him and his management don't go to the Bulldogs and see about an extension, and the Bulldogs don't go to him and say, we're not letting you, we're not going to extend you. He's just not that category of player. Bronson Xerri is somebody that will go to November 1 and will be a free agent. That is just a fact of life and a fact of a reality of the caliber of player that he is. Is he good? Yeah. Is he in that top echelon of player? That would be the club would be going, oh, we need to get him locked away. No. But this just comes with the territory. I'm glad that he's pissed off that he's not playing. Look, could it have been handled better by him? We don't actually know how this has got to the press, but the facts of the matter is there's no release been asked for as of yet. And it looks as though he's not going to play. Story's been blown out of proportion in my eyes.
Yeah, I agree with Jim. I think it's always hard to understand where the story is coming from at the first point of instance, and that's how I judge my reaction. If it has come from Bronson's camp, fair enough. I agree. He should be disappointed. He wants to play first grade. Bulldogs are in such a great spot at the moment, and they're building on their season last year. If it has come from his camp, I would just say he needs to probably be a little bit more understanding about perception when stories like this come out so quickly after an emotional reaction, because really, you know, a lot of things can happen in 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. If you just a little bit of resilience, a little bit of patience, and keep those emotions in check, he could be more than likely back in first grade within a month.
But also, Wade, like he's not actually asked for a release.
Yeah,
it's
I
not that
know.
new. So he's maybe run his mouth to someone close to him, and they've leaked this to the
possibly,
media, which looks like what's happened.
Yeah, but that's it, again, knowing who you're speaking to, understanding about how quickly news can get out in rugby league, because now it's a poor reflection on him a little bit because it's like, oh, well, he's got dropped or he's not playing this week and he wants to throw the toys out the cot and move on to another club, which I don't think is the case, but that's the perception right now. And he just needs to probably, bite down on the mouth guard a little bit, show a little bit of patience, work hard at training, play well in New South Wales Cup, and then wait for another opportunity to come up, because the team that starts the year is not necessarily the team that finishes the year. And the end goal is September football and chasing a premiership. So you're not going to have all roses and sunshine every week in the NRL, every season in the NRL. You're going to have some tough times, and sometimes in those hard times, it's better just to bunker down, work hard, work your way out of it, and wait for your next opportunity. And but on the other side of a player of that, I could understand if he spends a lot of time in reserve grade, a little bit of unease, just because of the way things were handled at the Bulldogs last year in terms of Reid Marnie, how quickly he seemed to get on the outer after playing it for a long time, the emergence of Hayward, And, now Reed's moved on. And there's still a little bit of probably bad blood there. And there's an issue over in Vegas when a couple of players bumped into each other. So I could understand if he does bunker down, do all the right things, work hard, and then an avenue doesn't open back up in the first grade, maybe pursuing other options after that's run its course because of what's happened. But right at the moment, that emotional reaction, just get your head down, work hard, wait for an opportunity.
Hey, let's not forget as well, Bronson Xerri, he is the centre, and they have the biggest ego of any position in football. Like, they think they're God's gift. They think the game doesn't run without them. You know what I mean? Like, they contribute, their efforts are minimal. They have the least amount of ground to cover, but they think they're the most important. Like, they think Bronson Xerri, Stephen Crichton, Latrell Mitchell, Bradman Best, they'd all think, well, my team don't win without me. Like, what how could this possibly, how could we, line up for a game without us, the centres? They do have a bit of ego. And look, I put myself in Bronson's position or think about players like him that have been on the receiving end of bad news about being dropped, and I like it that he actually that he shows that he cares, and he would feel that he is in the Bulldogs' best 13, like undoubtedly. And look, we don't actually know what exactly the reason behind him not playing in the team is, but what I do know is that look, there is the example of Reed Marnie at the Dogs and how that transpired in the press, and the almost derailing of the season. It coincided with that with the Bulldogs last year, even though they didn't make the top 4. But for every story like that, there's a story of a Corey Horsburgh and Ricky Stewart.
Yeah,
that was off. Joey Tarpany and Ricky Stewart. Big personalities within the groups, big coach personalities that are staying true to their course. Like, people will fall out and people will have disagreements, and that's what happens with egos. People that feel that they should be playing, which Bronson has every right to have that thought process, and it's just natural. And look, in a week's time, 2 weeks' time, 4 weeks' time, if Bronson focuses on the job, which is playing the best on the left, on the right, he'll be fine.
Yeah, well, just the last thing on this before we move on, he's not the first quality player to miss out on a first grade jumper, and sometimes the coaches use this to see how the reaction is of that player. And now that obviously the issues have been raised, and he's met with Gus, they've moved on. There's a line in the sand. Well, it's important how he navigates this next par, because it's either one par, you turn up, you rip the hinges off the door in the gym and you train the house down and you fight your way back in, or you come back to training with your bottom lip out, you sulk around and you let the emotion take over any opportunity you have to fighting back in. And, it's much preferably, I think the Bulldogs want the first one, a fit, fired up, motivated, angry Bronson Xerri, turn up the train every day, fighting for his position and fighting his way back in the team, because that elevates everyone. Or he sort of signs his own deal there if he goes the other way, because you just can't sustain that in a team that's chasing success, and you cruel yourself of any opportunity. And if he goes down that path, well, he won't be there for long.
Is there anything you've seen in Bronson Xerri's performance, both last year and to start this in the opening game against the Dragons, that makes sense that he's dropped at all?
Nothing for me jumps out. Obviously, that Vegas game a couple of weeks ago now, and not as fresh in the memory as what it once was. But no, there's nothing that screams out to me. But I know Coach Geraldo has a set of standards and non-negotiables, and a theory and a system of defence that is incredibly important. And the minor details may be not apparent to the untrained eye, but if you're in that system, you know exactly. And that is, again, no inside knowledge, but I know the devil's in the detail when it comes to Geraldo's.
And it's not necessarily about the on-field performance all the time. It could be a few things around the training park, discipline things, and we never know. And I don't want to, put extra fire, fuel on the fire. Sorry, but it could be a few reasons bubbling along there that he's missed the mark in a couple of areas that the team have identified, and Cam Serrato has identified that's important, and that's what they value, and that's their standards. And it doesn't take much if you miss them or a few of those consistently to go, okay, well, we need to recheck where we're at, and you might need to rebuild where you come from.
Yeah, because there's whispers that Xerri, obviously he moved to the right centre this year from the left centre, that he's been a bit disgruntled about that and maybe hasn't had the best attitude around that. So, because
that's centres for you. So I'm telling you, mate. I'm like, I know we joke, but that's what they are. They're very precious about left side, right side, and look, I know some halves get pigeonholed into being left and right, and there is a difference, and I do understand that. But if it's for the betterment of the team, look, if I'm Bronson Xerri and I'm playing on the right hand side of the Dogs, look, you've got Jacob Preston there. That seems to be working a fantastic little combination. We saw it in the Penrith game in the finals last year with Lockie Galvin linking up with Preston. I think I'd be starting to.
Oh, any round one, Preston went straight through a couple of times.
Yeah, so there's some joy happening on the right. I know teams favour their left, and that side of Kickow and Crichton looks to be the go-to side, but the right's not too bad either.
Yeah, because that's the only part that seems strange. Like Xerri, from the outside looking in, does seem like he's a better player than Anari Tuala. So it does seem strange that they're bringing him in. So it must be something personality related.
But only to us, outside looking in. We don't know what they're trying to achieve in their combinations. And, we see the highlight plays and obviously the deficiencies when some defence might break down. But, sometimes combinations and confidence in teammates and, what you're doing on the training park can sometimes outweigh what we see just on a weekend basis.
Yep.
And also, look, we've got to put this into context. Just because it's reported in the media doesn't mean that it's true. I remember post-Origin last year, Brian Toto wants out of the Penrith Panthers. Yeah. He didn't.
Okay. Well, let's go something more positive. The best moment of the weekend, without question. Alex Johnston scores 2 tries, breaks the record, a record that stood for 59 years. Incredible effort by him. But our man, Wade Graham, I want to replay what he had to say on last week's show.
Why would you go on the field, Jimmy? There's a game to be played. It's still a game.
Well, all right. Why would I run onto the field? Because Alex Johnston has just scored the most tries in NRL history. I'm not a pitch invader.
But it's just another try, right? I know he scored a lot of try, but it's just another try. He broke a record, yes, but it's a try in a game where there's competition. Stay off the field. Well, Charlie, you know what? I'm not too proud to say that I was wrong. Actually, in fact, if you ask my missus, she always lets me know how many things I get wrong around from time to time. But listen, I must admit it was a special moment, and I don't think it crystallizes, forever unless the fans are on the field in that moment. And the thing that got me the most and really swayed me was the first person there had a Roosters jersey on. So it transcended the game, that moment. That was rugby league. You look at those two rivals and how bitter and petty they can be. I think even on the weekend I saw a clip where the Roosters had a away team. They wouldn't even say South. They wouldn't have put the badge there. So that's how petty this rivalry can sometimes get. To see a Roosters jersey be the first one to get the AJ, I was like, okay, I was wrong. I'm happy to admit it, Jimmy. I'm sorry for how wrong I was last week. And congratulations to Alex Johnston. Incredible career, incredible record. It's going to be, 60 years? Basically 60 years.
60 years,
It might last 160 years, this one.
Yeah, it was beautiful scenes. It really was. It really showcased what our game is all about. And I know you laugh and you joke about the Roosters fan or the guy in the Roosters jersey being first on the scene. But look, there was jerseys from a lot of different clubs. It was a real it was an iconic moment that'll be replayed for many years to come. Look, and credit to Alex Johnston. Look, we spoke about where he sits in on the list of NRL wingers that of the modern era or since the NRL era, and debate around where he sits. But look, wingers are about scoring tries. I thought those scenes were absolutely sensational, and actually as well. Mutual friend of ours, Mark Cohen, bought box tickets for Gosford, sort of rather on the Central Coast for the next game, even though he is a Bulldogs fan. His wife's a Bunnies fan, thinking he was going to get prime seats for it, but it was broke at Allianz, and the stars couldn't have aligned any better, could it? You know, traditional rivalry. I guess quite fortunate for the game that it was the 41st minute and not like the 75th, and maybe go to the bunker. Like, it was just perfect, and it was a really good try as well. That try to be replayed, like, that's pretty cool. That it's not just a walkover untouched. I thought it was cool.
There was actually a Warriors jersey on the field as well, because Joel Harrison was there front and center. I think if you look at all the media pictures, he's right there with his Warriors jersey on. He got some great footage for Triple M. Did a great job.
What are our thoughts, just quickly? And I know we don't like to bring politics in a Triple M at NRL Daily, but ScoMo getting on, not ScoMo, sorry. I've got Sharkies. He's been on the field, but Albanese getting on the field.
Oh, I loved it, mate.
Really?
Loved it. Like, not many countries you can bring your democratically elected leader onto a sports field. Like, it says something about Australia, and it's something that I like.
You don't like it?
I don't know. I'm on the fence with it. I don't know. I think for everyone else, I don't know, he's South Sydney till he dies, but shouldn't he hold himself to a higher?
But mate, hang on a minute. You've got your prime ministers that flops a schooner on
Bob Hawke.
Yeah.
Like,
I've told the ScoMo story, haven't I? About when he came over to the prime minister's game, because the prime minister's team, right? A lot of prime ministers don't really pick that team. Obviously, Mao does. It's named after the prime minister, but ScoMo thought he should have been actively involved picking the team. And it was before a World Cup, and we had a try series in Papua New Guinea where Papua New Guinea played each other in a half. We played Papua New Guinea, then we played Fiji. And ScoMo came onto the field running water with no shoes on in Papua New Guinea. It was bizarre.
Can I ask you, what did you call him?
ScoMo.
You can't. No, you didn't.
Yeah. No, well, because...
No, but if you're, hey, ScoMo, took us the drink, you didn't say that.
Yeah, I did, yeah. Well, but
No,
I knew it.
What's wrong with that?
It's Mr. Prime Minister.
No, but I
please.
knew
It's Mr. Prime. It doesn't matter if you know him.
I do know him.
But you don't know it, mate. He's not... Oh, ScoMo. Like, no, mate, it's Mr. Prime Minister.
Mate. Yeah, he's fine.
He should have said to you, it's Mr. Prime Minister
Scott,
to you.
mate. Actually, I think I would call him Scott, not ScoMo, but I wouldn't call him Mr. Prime Minister.
Yeah, no.
Scott, I would have called him Scott.
If I met Albanese, I'd say, hey, Albo, how are you? I wouldn't call him Mr. Prime Minister.
See,
That's the Australian thing.
That's
You can't give the Australians a rap for their Prime Minister who are larrikins and then expect Australians not to call their Prime Minister by their nickname.
I mean, they're all just people. Politicians are just like.
But
honestly,
I'm not here thinking they're aliens.
No, but anyone can become a politician. Like, what's the real skill in being a politician? You just suck up to enough people and work your way at the top. Like, they're all kind of talentless.
I do know Scott Morrison and his wife. They live around the corner from me. They used to come to the Sharks games a lot of time. They were in our sheds a lot. Well, Scott was not necessarily his wife, but so I did know him, Jimmy.
Hey,
it
look,
wasn't just. Sorry for bringing it up. Sorry for bringing the politics up.
I don't want to be accused of woke nonsense here, but I think Mr. Prime Minister deserves to be called Mr. Prime Minister.
Well, leadership comes from the top. Leadership comes from the top, and he has saved that many fans from getting fined by coming on the field, because now they can't fine anyone.
Yep.
The one person who should get fined was the moronic fan who stormed the field when he leveled the leading record.
Mistimed it.
Come on, mate. You got to be better than that.
One job.
One job. Let's talk some of the games from this weekend, because the big thing that's come out of this weekend is there's two coaches who are well and truly under the microscope. Todd Payten, Anthony Seibold. Let's start with the Manly game, because Manly dished up one of the worst performances we've seen this year, Jimmy.
Dreadful. One of the worst performances I've witnessed as a pundit or as a commentator, and it went from bad to worse. Like the mess up from Brooks on the kickoff, and Wade, that's not a unique situation. I've been part of the games where we've made an error in the first set, we've messed up the kickoff, but you get each other's back and you defend like your life depends on it, and you work your way back into the game. And actually, what can happen sometimes is when a team's first touch of the football is a goal line set against the opposition, it can actually work against them because they don't get that hard-nosed approach. And that wasn't the case when it came to Newcastle. We've got to give credit to Newcastle, and they faced a lot of adversity in that game. But second half, watching it as well, if you didn't know anything about rugby league, but you had a basic fundamental understanding of key position players and how the bench rotation works, and you said which one of these two teams is playing with their two best, most expensive key position players in the side and which team has reduced the 2 interchange players, you would have said, oh, that would be Manly. And it wasn't. It was, look, when the draw came out, Manly, first block of fixtures, we were looking at before, weren't we? So they 2 at Brookvale, by another game at Brookvale. The 2 sides that they faced, Canberra, look, they would have fancied their chances, but Newcastle would have almost been like, well, look, we just need to do what we've got to do the basics, the fundamentals, and we will have enough. But it was so bad.
And despite, Newcastle having that fast start and getting some points, you're right, they lost Kalen Ponga and Dylan Brown at halftime. So no matter what was it 20 points at halftime? Like that Manly team, you go, rally, we're still a chance here. But they lacked that fight. And, I've tipped Manly the first 2 rounds, Brookvale being a big reason because of that. I thought the Canberra game was hard for me. It was a watch game. I didn't know much about Ethan Saunders, so I was really happy to flip the coin.
Colonel.
Flip the coin, Colonel Sanders. And, they got off to a good lead. Canberra fought back. Maybe a little bit unlucky to go down in Golden Point, but I thought there would be a big bounce back in terms of attitude and fight, and they actually went backwards. And now they have to stew on that over a bye week. And then they face the Roosters, which will be the return game for Cherry Evans after the bye. So a horrible start for Manly. And we need to give credit to Newcastle.
We do.
And Justin Holbrook, a lot of uncertainty up there. Dylan Brown looked amazing at 6. Kalen Ponga, he's started the season fresh, on fire. It's a shame that he hurt his hemi because he was the best player on the park in that first half. It was a good little duel between him and Turbo, who in a losing side was trying. But, you got to give credit to Newcastle for the way they've started the season, 2 from 2. And Manly, I don't know, Jimmy, the bye, it's almost like you got to rip that start away. Like, rip those first 2 games away, put them and start your season again after the bye, because what they've tossed up, like particularly on the weekend, is just Seabold and co will not be happy with that.
No, absolutely not. You talk about the Ponga injury, but that came again. Manly, Fogarty kicks into the corner. They look like they're about to front load their energy. They put that shot on Ponga. He went down. 1 shift to Bradman Best, and away they were through.
Yeah,
and the same thing happened the previous week against the Raiders. So it's alarm bells are ringing. What Manly do in their bye, how they can rectify this situation this season. Like where do you even start? Like Brooks involved in 2 errors off kickoffs, like the lack of real, like in that second half, Newcastle bombed chances.
Yeah,
Manly didn't create any from memory, like a couple here and there, but they didn't look a threat.
Yeah, they wouldn't be a happy camp at the moment going into the recovery today and watching the video. I'm sure there will be some video today, unless Anthony's given us a day off because of the bye upcoming. But again, it's a lot to do over the next week or so, and they do have time. They have that bye, and they'll be able to have a look at everything. But you almost got to pretend those 2 games didn't happen and restart your season after the bye. Because if they drop another game at home in round 3 and they're 0-3 and there's 3 home games gone, that you normally, as a team, you want to bank as many as your home games as possible, because you have some tough road challenges throughout the year, and your home games are so important. So if you go 0-3 to start the year at home, it's an uphill battle the whole way.
Yeah, look at the Warriors. 2 games at home, 2 wins. The Tigers like our oval. They looked happy in their spiritual home. Wade, I'm going to ask you a question here. So you're saying about rip the Band-Aid off, and I get it, right? And I've been part of teams that you're out of form and you can just do that, and you almost know it can change, and there's a belief that this isn't us. I don't know if Manly are that side. I don't know if Manly have that ability to just go, we're gonna park that. We know we're better than that. We're a happy camp. We're good. We're connected. I don't know if I see that from Manly based off the back end of last year and the beginning of this season.
Oh, it's not going to be easy. That's for sure. Like, even when you are a happy camp and everything's going well, and you might be out of form, or you might have a few injuries, and you're just going through a tough patch, it's not easy to get out of that. So it's a lot of work to do in just basically 1 week,
Yeah.
because there's 1 week to, review where you're at. It's the worst possible start they almost could have had. Rest and then prepare for a Roosters game where you have your most capped former player coming to face you at Brookie again. It's going to be a couple big weeks for Manly.
The Knights are the example of where sacking your coach does bring good results, and their team looks completely different to what they looked like under Adam O'Brien last year. Is it already time, Jimmy, to rip the Band-Aid off and move on from Anthony Seibert? Last year, he got a lot of reprieve because of what happened with Daly Cherry-Evans and all the off-field stuff. But this year, they've started terribly, and there's one clear candidate out there, and it's Willie Peters. And both the Cowboys and Manly would be looking at him going, he is the perfect guy to come in and fix this club. Should one of them just rip the Band-Aid off now and go get Willie Peters?
Well, look, I'm not a fan of calling for coaches' heads or just let me hear this out, because look, it is salvageable, and funnier things have happened, and both of those two clubs and those two coaches knew before a ball was even kicked that they were going to be under immense pressure and scrutiny. Should their side not be at least minimum competing for the 8, and at the moment the performances just haven't been up to standard. So there's some concerns there. But then let's go and have a deeper dive and take our listeners and our viewers in to what goes on behind the scenes, because with such a standout in Willie Peters, and with two coaches under immense pressure in not too dissimilar situations as well, in terms of the new board at the Cowboys and the new CEO at Manly, let's not forget, let's throw in a side Papua New Guinea Chiefs that need a head coach. You are not in the real world if you don't think that phone calls are being made to Willie Peters' manager, Bray Finasta, engaging interest in those jobs, and the phone call and the receiving the message to the two respective three clubs is around, well, this you're not the only person, you're not the only club calling me. And then that adds pressure, and it could almost be...
Well, because the clubs don't want to miss out on their first man.
Well, that's it. They don't want to... Yeah. So if all three of those clubs have Willie Peters as their first man, it almost becomes a race to the bottom of who's going to make that first move.
Yeah. And it's never nice, obviously, talking about coaches in this sense so early. But I think, Seibold, he's probably got a little bit more time. I think we all knew that Todd Payten was under pressure at the start of this season, pending results, because of where he's been with that club, already the speculation around him, and how they finished last year, and to go 0-2, the drum beats are already starting to be. I think they've both got a little bit more time, but the only way to get that pressure and the speculation and the talk away from that is you need to win footy games, and it's a high performance environment. It's a high performance sport. It's a professional sport, and the only way those coaches are going to alleviate some of that pressure is to win footy games.
Well, also performance, Wade. I think performance does weigh into it. I'm looking at the Dragons, for example.
Yeah.
Close in Vegas against the Dogs. For 60 minutes before the Gutho HIA. Like, we're looking in a position to, and I know it blew out in the end, but there's elements of that performance that both performances that the club can build their year on.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
And it's situational, but there was nothing I saw from Manly that I could be deemed as positive, or something to, like, aspects of play to build on. And the Cowboys, I think, probably hard that they missed the start due to some a lot of six against them, and the poor submitting of Kai O'Donnell. So there's a reason there, but then that's not in isolation. It's the beginning week and then the back end of last year as well.
We spoke on Thursday, just on Manly, we spoke on Thursday's episode about the lack of depth in the middles. They've lost, Takiaho gets ruled out for injury, and then a fella named Paul Bryan is the next man up in your reserves. They've got that real lack of depth in the middles.
Manly?
Yeah.
Well, again, last year we saw the loss of Paseka. We saw the loss of Olakwatu. who are two big bodies and two important pieces in that forward pack. And again, the depth was tested, but those two guys are back. And yes, they lose Takiaho. At the moment, even if they are full strength, even if Takiaho plays, they probably don't look in the right frame to win a game because of the lapses of concentration, the inability to defend errors. Like that Luke Brook error to start the game. There's an opportunity to go, yeah, not an ideal start, but we're fresh. Let's get our defensive line together. Let's turn this team away. We'll get the ball back. We'll get our first yardage set a minute later than we should have had it, right? And they missed the mark there to start the game. And that's more of a concentration thing. A, the error, and then B, not being able to defend that error. It's just they're just off the pace at the moment. And again, it's uphill, but it's still salvageable. And if they can somehow turn it around after the bye, get some wins on the trot, all that pressure goes away for the time being. But it's all uphill.
Now, boys, the final game of the round this weekend was the Dolphins against the Titans. The Titans 14-0 up, but the Dolphins just had that class and were able to come back. Bit concerning, though, these Dolphins' performances to start the year, considering they were a contender. What have you made of them, Wade, to start the year?
Well, the Dolphins, they got away with one yesterday off the back of a little bit probably talent and belief and Hammer just having a moment. I really felt for the Titans because they played well, they defended well. A couple of try savers from Keanu Kinney on the back there, some scrum plays. They were fighting hard for each other and competing hard and just couldn't get that first win for Josh Hannay. It would have been heartbreaking to go down like that. And they were leading for 70-odd minutes of the game, and they played so well. But the Dolphins just that little bit of class. Emerso at the end there, just that one-on-one. He went up for the kick. Listen, that shaky start for the Dolphins. I think we probably all had a little bit more expectation on them this year because of how well they attacked last year. The emergence of Katoa, obviously Farnworth, Hammer. Then you add in a healthy Tom Flegler, a really good news story to have him back. Tommy Gilbert back. And we just sort of all expected them to go to the next level, but that they haven't quite hit it to start the year, but time's on their side. And the most important thing is sometimes, winning ugly and just banking the 2 points is a gateway to finding your form, and they'll be looking to improve. But watching that game, again, with no, as a complete neutral, Dolphins and Titans, I really felt for the Titans, going all that way, all that effort, and just falling a little bit short.
Yeah, they tried really hard, the Gold Coast Titans, and they looked like a team that cared. We spoke earlier in the show about ripping the Band-Aid off. It appears as though Hannay and the Gold Coast did that with their performance and the result against the Cronulla Sharks in round one. It was a fresh start for them, and they played that way. There was a lot to like. Look at the Dolphins and go, well, look, they were everybody's favourite side to watch last year. We forget that they started the season 0-4. And it looks like that side that started the season last year, but last year they didn't get any wins. They've jagged a win there, and they needed it if they're going to be a serious contender. But they're going to need to improve, and I think they know that. We've not seen the best of them just yet. Probably a bit of an over-reliance on some individual brilliance there from Tabuai Fido. Like that, the kick from Katoa, it looked like it was strange. I've not seen a kick like that. It was perfect in the end, but it wasn't high. It wasn't deep. It was just.
You know what it reminded me of a little bit? It reminded me of Stephen Crichton in round one. The Dogs, they attacked well and they played well, but at the end there, it took him to go, everyone get out of my way and let me get this sorted. In a moment where I can ice the game, let me get this sorted. It looked like it was just Katoa and some communication to Hammer going, I'm going to put up there one-on-one and just get out of our way, boys. And just,
you're right.
Let's get it done.
Yeah.
And
that brilliance. The brilliance.
Just this one moment, okay, we haven't been great for 75 of them, but I can ice the game in this one moment. Just get the ball where I can get it, and then I'll go and get it. And that's what it looked like. And sometimes you do need to rely on that. And again, we'll probably forget about these 2 points as the season goes on, as they improve. So just the value of banking the 2 points when you're not at your best, when you're still looking for form and looking for that improvement, they're so important.
Well, let's talk some of the other games then, because Penrith, for me, again, the most standout performance of the weekend. Standout performance in round one, keeping the Broncos to nil, even though they had a lot of drop ball in that game. And then this weekend, they've kept the Cronulla Sharks to 6 points. James Graham, they've conceded 6 points in 160 minutes. Should we just skip to finals now and hand Penrith the title?
Look, there's a long way to go, but you've got to be, you've got to be impressed with what Penrith bring. Especially defensively. Look, they're a great side to watch with the ball, but defensively, they know their role. It's systematic. They have full control. They're not afraid to concede 6 against. They do get heavily penalised, but they back their fitness and the pressure that they apply to the opposition. So, at 12 points in front, going into halftime, the Sharks would have been, there's not much light at the end of the tunnel, but once they got that that opportunistic try just on halftime, it was over. And then Sharks have got to try and change how they play. They're chasing their tail. Penrith can beat you psychologically. I think, we'll all praise Cleary. I think Dylan Edwards is fit again, which is so important. But it's some of those, the less name in the lights players that are really starting to that really contribute to them, that go a little bit unnoticed. Wade, you're about to speak about one of them now.
Yeah, I was so impressed by young Billy Phillips off the bench. Just his composure. Obviously, he playing in the middle there, but some of his, late offload, the ability to flick the ball back and keep it alive, and that's what really kept the Sharks on their toes, their defence on their toes, is that second phase footy. They couldn't really handle it. A couple of loose balls that the Penrith picked up and promoted again. They found some results. And we were speaking on, I think it was me, you, and Dan Ganane. We were speaking on Thursday after there's a lot of tries scored in that Broncos Parramatta round. And Dan asked if we were concerned about the amount of points and do we think it's a reflection of the rules and the game being too far. Well, I think Penrith's showing everyone right now that defence is still king in our competition. And if you want to win in September and take their team on late in the year, you're going to have to be able to handle a lot of pressure and defend, because the Sharks did have a couple of good moments in that first half. They asked some few questions. They had some try line pressure, but the Penrith defence were able to turn them away and then get their own moments. Talangi was fantastic. A couple of clean line breaks down his edge. So I think Penrith, I know the trend is points to start this season, but Penrith showing the competition that defence is still going to be king and you need to be able to stop points as well. And they are back. And just again on Jimmy's point, a fully fit Dylan Edwards, he's a big difference maker. There's no doubt last year he carried that, was it a groin issue at some stage, a hip flexor issue? Yeah. I think he did it earlier at Combank in the season, and he kept turning up and kept doing his best. But there's always a difference in a player when they're managing an injury and they're just out there helping the team out, and when they're fully fit and they're getting after performances and trying to affect the result.
Yeah, in terms of fullbacks, he almost got leapfrogged by a couple. Take nothing away from James Tedesco, Reece Walsh, Tabia Fido. We know that they're fantastic players, but Dylan Edwards to start this season has reminded everybody he's a different type of fullback with what he brings, but Penrith Panthers wouldn't swap him for any of the elite fullbacks in our competition, and I mean absolutely any.
Yeah.
And plus as well, like he's not paid as much as those guys, and they still wouldn't swap them. And even if they could have the salary cap relief, no way Panthers swap that man.
Same old Sharks. It does seem though, getting up against one of the proper contenders, and they lay a crap performance.
Well, I wouldn't say it was crap. I just think again they got a lesson. Like last week they had all the ball in that first half. They really put the Titans away and were able to score a lot of points. And that trend of finding points without too much difficulty to start this season.
They didn't look like scoring tries at all. Really,
well, they didn't. But I wouldn't put that on the Sharks. Yes, they need to have probably a dose of reality, and they're not where they need to be if they want to. They've struggled with this Penrith team for a while, and there's still a gap between them, obviously from the weekend's performance. But I just think it was Penrith really flexing their defensive system, and they are back. And the Sharks will have to lick their wounds again. They would have thought they were in a great position, a good round one win, another opportunity to have a crack at this Penrith team who they've struggled with for, well, as long as Penrith's been going well. Most teams have struggled with them, and they fell short. They fell short at a great location in Bathurst. Will Kennedy was going back to his hometown. They would have been up for it physically. They had an even share of possession in the first half, some defensive lapses that Penrith took advantage of, but they had their opportunity and just weren't able to make the most of that possession. So a little bit of maybe a reality check early in the season that there's still work to do. But, yeah, again, I'm not too worried. Like they're probably where they are at the moment, 1 win, 1 loss, and well deserved.
Saturday afternoon though, Leichhardt Oval.
Magic.
God, Leichhardt Oval's good. I know Brent Reed hates it and he was hammering on the Sunday show because the Wi-Fi is rubbish, but the Leichhardt Oval's incredible. It looks amazing on television. If I was one of the TV broadcasters, I'd be trying to get a game there every couple of weeks. I think if I was Fox Sports or Channel 9, I'd try and get Tigers to play every game there. It looks that good. But they looked incredible, Wade, as well. Like, it's sort of the Showtime Tigers, the razzle dazzle. It's so good to watch.
Well, it's funny because you can see definitely it's visible in some teams. They take on the personality of their coach, or they take on the attributes of their coach, and it was Benji footy at Leichhardt in a day game. Unfortunately for them, they had the bye in round one, and it must suck to have the bye in round one. I don't recall ever having a bye in round one throughout my career, but to work your ass off all preseason and have to sit there and watch 4 teams go to Vegas and wait. Okay, it's a split round. The next week you have to see all the rest of the other teams get a go, and you're waiting an extra week. And they were shot out of a cannon to start that game. I thought Luai was fantastic. Dewey was fantastic. He's found a home there in that number 7. Their forwards were great defensively. Appy, crafty as always. And they have the big, powerful outside backs now who can take advantage of opportunities. Kai Paul Pierce, a couple of tries on debut at the club. All around a winning day if you're a West Tigers person.
I think Luai at 6 is a big move. He played with so much freedom without that extra added responsibility of playing 7. I think what's being dubbed Benji ball offload football, I think 21 offloads in total. They were offloading at ease. I don't know if it was by design or it was just the fact that the Tigers have, it appears to be a bit of a freedom to offload, but every 6 a game, it seemed like they wanted to increase the appetite for offloads, which is a double down on fatigue. You think about it, you're in the middle of the field, you're already fatigued, the 6 a game goes, and then you offload, and then all that just creates just more movement, more fatigue, and
more tackles.
More tackles, and then basically that the end result, obviously Kai O'Donnell Simbin, which I thought was wrong. The end result is Adam Dewey looks like he's tackled, and you're that tired, he just falls over 2, 3 Cowboys players, and gets a try.
Yeah, that was pathetic, wasn't it? That Dewey try.
Yeah, it was poor. But I think it was more fatigue.
But it's still like that can't happen in NRL.
But that's where fatigue it affects your decision making, and you just clock off. They thought the tackle was done. There was 3 of them in there on one person.
Yeah.
Okay, we've solved this problem.
Yeah.
You start thinking about solving the next problem.
Well, Drinkwater was just standing there, sort of watching it, and then Griffin Neame dropped off as well.
Because they think that problem's solved, and then straight away your fatigued brain goes, okay, there's going to be another issue here. Let's start searching for that issue when you hadn't quite got that job done. And Dewey's a quality player. I think he's probably underestimated as a player with his quality and the way he wants to compete and how he adds value to a team, whether it's at 6 or 7. 6 or center. And we've seen him at 13.
Well, that's it, probably, isn't it, Wade? Like, he was dubbed utility man. And he probably really, when Benji was assessing his team, he probably had Dewey down as his 14. And then Galvin goes. Luai at 7 doesn't seem to work. I think Latu Fainu, Dewey got a chance there last year. And I reckon Benji's had to go, well, I'm not going to have you as my 14 anymore. I'm going to give you my 7. And then that ability to bank some games in has really helped him. You're right, Wade. Wherever Dewey plays, if it's 3, 4, 13, 6, 7, he's going to have a dig. But that almost worked against him in getting that time.
I was just about to say this because he's extremely confident as a player. You can see this the way he carries himself on the field, and the versatility tags. It's a good thing to be able to play a number of positions. It's always a good thing. But when you don't specialize in a position and you don't get a first crack, and you watch other guys in front of you play in a position that you go, well, you know what? If I had a decent crack at that position, I think I could do as a good job, or if not better. It's like he plays with a forever chip on his shoulder. I'll show you that I can own a position. I know I can play multiple positions, but I'll show you I can do a really good job at one position if you just give me a chance. And he delivers every time he plays in any position, but he just gets shuffled around so much. But you never would want to admit it as a player. But say he was playing 7, and then, you know, centre gets injured, you go, okay, we'll move Dewey to centre because we can cover that and we can bring in young Fainu. In the back of his mind, he goes, just leave me. I can do a better job there. Like, sort that.
Bring Skelton on
sort
instead,
that issue
which is
out.
what they did. They brought Skelton on.
Yeah.
And I like it. I love Adam Dewey as a player. I love that competitive edge. He's got that edge about him. And I think it, you know, probably stems from that and, you know, being moved around so much in his career. He just wants to go, give me a crack. Let me stay on the field. He's obviously had injury concerns as well, but let me stay on the field and I can make a difference for this team every week.
And he got re-signed last year until the end of 2029. So they love him at the Tigers. And it's been an incredible 18 months for Dewey there because he was the guy who Benji put the shot on and they allegedly had the push and shove at training that time. And it's the same as we're talking about Xerri and Dogs can't resolve their problems, but Dewey's another example of where it all comes back together again.
But that just goes to show again, you know, what I'm describing. Like, say something happened at training and, you know, if Benji put Dewey on show, well, Dewey's not going to cop that line down. He goes, well, okay, I'm a competitor too. I'll show you. And I love that for him. And disagreements, as Jimmy said, and I wouldn't say falling outs, but, you know, you ruffle each other's feathers a lot over our, you know, over the season because there's so much training, there's so much contact, there's so many emotions. You know, every now and again you can rub someone the wrong way, but you also need to be able to move on from that and get back to, you know, where the team needs you to go and where the club needs you to go. And Tigers, again, an all-round winning day for the West Tigers and their fans on Saturday.
Are they a top 8 team this year, the Tigers?
It'd be nice to see them because it's
please,
please.
Just do me a favour, Wade. Please don't say.
No,
please don't say it'd be good for the game.
No, it wouldn't be good for the game.
It would be good for the game.
Oh, don't.
It would be
But
good for
it'd
the
be good
game.
for their fans.
Of course, it'd be good for the Roosters fans if that would be good for Penrith fans. Man, I can't stand this. I tell you what, it's good for the game when the Tigers are going well.
It is good for the game, though.
You know, it's good for the game when the comp's going well.
There are certain teams, and this is probably not a chat for now, that it's good for the game when they're doing well. The Warriors is an example of that. How good is it over in New Zealand right now? They're selling out every game.
Dragons, good for the game. Parrot, good for the game. Dogs, good for the game.
Yeah.
Tigers, good for the game. Warriors, good for the game. Broncos, good for the game. We've gone through half the comp.
Yeah, but you know why? Because those fans who have been starved of success for a while, like, we sort of forget about them and everyone else forgets
I've not forgot about the Tigers, Wade.
Hey,
they've been everywhere.
What about when Newcastle, they made that run?
They're even better for the game.
When they made that
the
run.
Hunter region, I tell you what, it's good for the game. We've named half the comp.
Well, to be fair, Jimmy, I think Peter Vlandis come out, he said there's going to be a 20-man comp, bigger finals, wild cards. So, you know what? We'll get half the comp into the finals.
To be fair, when Cameron made the finals last year, great for the game.
Great for the game.
Great game.
You just mentioned that finals thing. Do you like it? Wild card, if it comes in, if we've got 20 teams, you go to 10 in finals. I saw the article that Travis Main wrote, and it wasn't how I imagine the wild card should work. I think it should be 1 to 6, qualify, week off, 7 vs 10, 8 v 9. His model was 1 and 2 get the week off, and then 3 v...
More like the NFL.
More like the NFL,
Yeah. I would just say, I think 8 for me, top 8 with a 16 club comp was far too many, in my opinion. It's half the comp. I always thought that. You know, even now with a 17-man comp, that's getting a little bit better. I like 8 for 20 because you don't want to award. I get they will sell more games, we'll get more content, and there'll be more money in from the broadcasters. I get that. But in terms of finals, you don't want to reward me. How do you say it? Mediocrity?
Mediocrity.
Mediocrity. Like,
we got there eventually.
And I know there's an appetite because we always see a team late make a charge for the finals. But there's a difference playing when the pressure's off and you're out of finals contention and the 2 points aren't on the line. You know what? Am I going to put that grubber in and take the 50-50? Am I going to execute that skill? When there's no pressure after finals or 2 points coming up, I kick it every time. If I know, hang on a minute, I might
be a wild card.
I might stuff up here, and the coach is going to get into me if I mess this up. Sometimes you hold it back, but that's why the best players are the best, because they'll take their opportunities when they're on and they'll back their execution. And we always see a team play well. Like Parramatta at the back end of last year, they played well, they turned the corner, but guess what? They're out of finals contention, so the pressure's off.
Yeah,
go out there and throw the footy around and play with that freedom. Do it when you're under pressure. That's the cream rises to the top. So I don't know. It's the first I've heard about it, and I understand probably the need to or want to go to more teams once we expand the comp. But I'll have to have a look at the different models before I have a strong opinion on it.
I'm with you, Charlie. I think it will go to 10 teams. There will be an extra week in finals. How that is structured is really important.
Yeah.
I think if you give 1 and 2 the week off, there's your grand final.
Yeah, but
I agree. You ruin such an advantage.
You ruin the jeopardy. And should one of those teams fall over in the path to finals, well, then you give it to the other one.
And if we go the conference system, say like the NFL, where there's a Northern Conference, Southern Conference, whatever, it takes away some of our best matchups because we won't get a Penrith and say Brisbane semi-final like we did last year, because they'll go in other routes and meet into the grand final. And I don't know, there's a lot to be looked at, and they'll look at it. And to be honest, you'd be a brave person to back against PVL and his ideas of growing the game, because he's pulled a lot of things together, and it is in a real sweet spot at the moment. And they'll look at the final system, as the competition expands. They'll probably have to come up with something new, but just at the moment, I don't mind the 8.
Well, let's finish off with some award-winning segments here, because this is fantastic. We did this last week and it was a huge success, so we're going to do it again. We've got 3 things to say today. After 2 rounds, Jimmy, what have you seen enough of?
Like our Oval. Give me more of that.
Give you more, okay. Yeah, give you more.
Yeah, give me more. I've seen enough. I don't need...
no Brent Reid, no bulldozer?
Mate,
No.
give me more of that. And you know what? They did play... the Cowboys, that wouldn't have bought many. I understand there's not going to be a roof there, but who cares? You know what? There's no such thing as bad weather.
Yeah, so they had 17 or 18 without Cowboys fans traveling.
Yeah.
There would have been some Cowboys fan, but the majority. How many can they get in if they have a Bulldogs? 17, 18? Or did they get to 20?
That's sellout. No, it's 18.
Yeah.
They would sell out,
okay,
yeah.
I mean,
I don't mind it.
Look, I reckon there's an appetite there for maybe... it's hard to please everybody. I know they're a joint venture, but talk of no games at Leichhardt, that's got to go. If there's no such thing as bad weather, just inappropriate clothing, look, get your umbrellas there. I thought those scenes were brilliant.
Wade, what about yourself?
I've seen enough of Penrith. They're back.
Mm-hmm.
They're back in a big way. First off-season, pre-season spent at home. No hangover from a premiership to deal with. No World Club Challenge. They are going to be an issue again this year, and they almost made a run last year despite losing, their first 6 or 7 games. But I think, that they should be the favourites for the competition.
James, what are you putting the line through?
E-bikes. And not just Roosters players either. Get rid of them. They do my head in. Don't you come on my path, because I'll play that game of chicken with you. If I'm walking on the street and an e-bike's coming towards me, you think I'm going on the grass, you've got another thing coming. Roosters should ban them. Everybody should ban them. They should be a thing of... it should be one of those things, like, when we look back in like the 2000s, like, oh, do you remember that? Do you remember this?
E-bikes.
Like, in another 20 years' time, do you remember those stupid e-bikes that kids used to drive around? And, oh yeah, what a stupid idea they were.
The issue is the kids juice it, so they change the settings, and then it can go 40, 50 kilometres an hour.
Yeah,
you know what?
You got to do that on motorbikes too. Take the restrictors off on motorbikes.
Yeah.
Ride in the paddocks.
But little kids,
I don't know if you ever did it as a kid, but that was a Westie thing that we used to do.
It's Billy Smith obviously injured. I imagine the Roosters' budget. Is it the soft cap? Or there is a cap on expenses. I could see a sneaky shuttle bus, minibus, or maybe even a little monorail being built from EQ to.
Just walk. It's like it's a 10-minute walk. Just walk it, you lazy pricks. You're already going to be training. A little walk's going to do.
Probably them ferrying back and forth because most of them would go for lunch in EQ if they didn't bring their own lunch. Like there's restaurants and all that up there, so they'd probably ferry in a couple of times.
Yeah,
and sometimes you might only have a half an hour break. And NRL professionals, they should be prepared, Jimmy, and have their lunch ready to take with them if they've got a short session. But as we know, not everyone in the team has that level of preparation. So a lot of guys would run for lunch or coffees between sessions. But, mate, Wadler, who was a fantastic addition.
Great. He was amazing on Saturday. Huge addition.
He seemed to have a little bit more up his sleeve about this. And I feel like it's been an ongoing issue for the Roosters. We know Billy Smith came off on the weekend with no helmet and was ruled out. And I think one of the Butcher boys was in the back.
Egan Butcher was on the back, yeah.
And then he mentioned Angus Crichton coming off an electric skateboard.
Yeah, he got all cut up last year.
Cut up his arms. So.
An electric skateboard?
Yeah, there's one that you got the remote in your hand and you just press it to go. So there's some
popular,
transport issues at the Roosters. And Jimmy with the soft cap, you're right. They might be looking at some sort of alternate transportation.
Look, I'm all about diversity and how you get around, but there are some things that, I'm just going to, like you say, Charlie, stick to walking.
Stick to walking. You keep talking, Jimmy. You're doing a fantastic job. What are you putting a line through, Wado?
Me tipping Manly. My tips have been awful to start this season. I've tipped them round 1 and 2. I'm just going to not tip them for a little bit. I'll leave them off my radar because they've let me down.
Yeah, I had a shocker on the tips as well this week. It was terrible.
Well, not many people would have tipped Para to beat Bronx.
Wait, has he told you to say that?
Did he tip Para?
Yeah, I tipped Para.
Didn't you know? He's been telling everyone.
Speaking about it before. I thought $4 was way too much for them.
$4 was overs, massive overs. But yeah, I tipped him. No one else saw it coming. But sometimes, you get inside the.
So you tipped Para and still went off in the tips.
Yeah,
okay.
I did. I had to shock. I tipped the Raiders. I tipped the Rabbitohs. I tipped the Cowboys. Had a shocker. Tipped Manly.
So hard early in the year. Yeah, Manly. Anyway, Manly's off my tip sheet.
I like it.
But you did tip Para, so
did tip Para.
Forget the ones that you got wrong, Charlie. Don't broadcast that.
No. Well, the buy round clipped up me tipping Para, so thanks very much, Tony, for doing that. Cool your Jets. What are you cooling your Jets on after 2 rounds? What does everyone need to calm down about?
Well, for me, it's the criticism up at the Broncos. I just think they've got some fight in them. It hasn't been a great start. They've leaked a lot of points. But they're nowhere near their best. And I think back to last year, they weren't consistently the best team at all last year. Canberra were that, and Canberra won a premiership. They got hot, and when they got it all together, they went on a run, and they toppled everyone in front of them. And for me, I just think it's a matter of when, not if, when they find their mojo and when they put it together. And when they do put it together, they're going to be a force. And, when you're at the top of the tree and some issues pop up, a lot of people like to kick you when you're down and just have a few shots at you. I just think cool your Jets on the Bronx. They'll turn it around. They have some work in front of them, but eventually they'll be up there and a threat again.
Huge game this weekend at Amy Park, Storm. That's a massive test. Jimmy, what do we need to call our Jets on?
Oh, look, I could have gone with people blowing up about the Prime Minister, Mr. Prime Minister, I should say, coming onto the field and celebrating history. People blowing up about Cameron George, the Warriors CEO, and his theatrics towards the Canberra players. I know, but some people are blowing up. But my main gripe, cool your Jets. The Sydney Roosters putting up the South Sydney as the away team. It's a bit of banter, but exactly. It's a rivalry. It's a bit of banter. You're not worthy of your name. You're just the away team. Get over it. It's just a bit of banter. If you just return serve when they come to a core stadium.
You know what South would be thinking right now? Well, whoever made that decision, they'll be like, why didn't we think of that first?
Yes, that is.
It's a great get.
Exactly. It is. It is. We're not going to even recognise you as a football club.
It's a great get for the rivals.
We're going to end on a sour note, unfortunately, boys, because the news has come out now while we've been recording about the Newcastle Knights. So Kalen Ponga, high-grade hamstring strain, out for 6 to 8 weeks, and Dylan Brown out 4 to 6 weeks. MCL, I should say, for Dylan Brown.
It's a bitter pill to swallow, that, particularly the way they started this season. 2 wins, a great start for Justin Holbrook taking over there, and to have your marquee signing in Dylan Brown to miss, over a month of football, and then Kalen Ponga, we know how valuable he is to that team. To have him miss over a high grade is the way he runs and how fast twitch he is. That could see some significant time on the sideline. It's disappointing for them, but they had some spirit on the weekend in that second half. They'll be able to lean into that. Justin Holbrook certainly isn't going to let this try and dampen the spirit of the place after their great start. So hopefully we can see some fight for them while they have to go through these issues.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You heavily invest in those two particular players, and we know they rely specifically on Kalen Ponga this year. But they just have to roll with it. And, Holbrook won't use that as an excuse. They may have to find a different way to play. Naturally speaking, with Ponga is so influential and so on ball as a fullback. But, that's football. That's the NRL.
Turbo gets criticised a lot for not staying on the field, but Ponga's numbers aren't great either. If you look at I'll run you through his last season since 2020. So in 2020, he played 19 games. Obviously, that was the reduced season because of COVID. Then 15 games in 2021, 14 in 2022, 20 in 2023, 16 in 2024, and only 13 games last year. It's going to be another year this year now if he's out 6 to 8 weeks where he doesn't crack 20 games.
Well, the thing with Kalen, and this is a bit different, hamstring injury, running at speed, that could happen to any player when they're not quite at that condition they need to be to carry on throughout the year. But he just plays so tough, and he's only a small body, and he's the number one focus for every opposition NRL team. And they go after him, and he's strong on the ground. He fights on the ground. He squirms well. He doesn't pull any punches, and he puts his body on the line every week. And when you're the number one target of everyone's offense, it stacks up week after week after week after copping the hits and copping the bruises. It's hard to maintain that, and we see it every year. He generally starts the season like this, on fire and really fast, really sharp, but then he just physicality and the beatings just take a toll on him in the long run. So it's disappointing. Maybe it could be a blessing in disguise if he misses the early part of the season. He'll be fit when he comes back. He doesn't have all those week-to-week bumps and bruises that he's dealing with, and hits that middle part of the season fresh and can maybe maintain throughout the year. But yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, disappointing news for the Knights, but hopefully they can fight through this period. But great show by you boys as always. The Graham's Trust on a Monday. You both did a fantastic job.
Thanks, Charlie. It means a lot coming from you.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, boys.